Yeah, I think it's phase one. I think phase one, you've got to have a personal brand associated with any product or service that you're launching. I think that was the biggest mistake that we made when we launched Scalable. The Scalable company launched following 2020 COVID. I didn't want to be the face of a brand. You were kind of the face of Epic, and to have you be the face of like two brands, like that's a bit confusing. And so we launched it with no real face. It was kind of like the company, and it was very, very difficult to gain any kind of traction. Now, because whose story are you telling? Who is that? Who's the person who's advocating for these people? What's the big why and the greater company purpose, like the things that people will rally around behind just the great offer on the front end.
Hey everybody, Roland Frazier and Ryan Deiss here with another episode of the Business Lunch Podcast. Ryan, how you doing this fine? We're recording this on a Monday.
I'm doing astoundingly well. We had had to host this massive graduation party for the entire senior class at my son's school, and my wife somehow got voluntold that she was helping with it.
Nice.
And if there's
I like it.
Yeah, and if there's something she hates more than anything, it's being responsible for group activities. And so
I was going to think that the thing that she hated the most was being told to do anything.
She didn't love that. Yeah, she didn't love that. But it was nice because you and I have experience planning events, right? And so it's always nice when you can utilize some of your business skills to help out somebody that you care about in a non-business related fashion. And so we're on the other, my wife is happy and I was a good husband. So this is a great day.
Excellent.
Yeah. What about you?
Good. I have been assembling a music studio, as you know, and I had a big piece that came in about a week ago, and I finally got the time to wire it up, and then found out that several parts of it weren't working. Some of it was user error, some of it was technical error. But it was working well enough for me to have a really fun time just banging on it for several hours, making it make noise. So that gave me great pleasure and made me feel good. Other than that, it was pretty chill. Played a little pickleball.
And for listeners who don't know, how many keyboards and different, equipment of that nature in your collection? What are we up to now?
It's not important. It's not important. A lot of them I'm just holding for a friend, and I could certainly quit anytime.
It's a problem.
I can't put on any kind of recording what I have because I would probably,
get robbed.
I would probably hear about it from a lot of people in my family. But anyway, they would be like doing an intervention and selling it all off. Yeah. So can't have that. But one thing that I was thinking about, because I was thinking about doing a YouTube channel on music stuff as a separate, just kind of fun thing. I am aware that it's quite a bit of work as I'm starting to plan it. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it or not. But it made me think a little bit about how important it is to have a personal brand. There was a big event that just happened in the music world, and I was watching several people who've built brands as in the music space, and I was thinking about kind of how we're doing it and all that stuff. And I just thought it might be, I think you did a podcast with somebody, an interview you were telling me last week or something, or in the last couple of weeks about it. So I thought it would be helpful for people to maybe hear us riff on the personal brand front for a little bit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love it. Very strong feelings about this. I think, because I think today, to launch a brand, to launch a product, launch a service, launch any company without a personal brand associated with it, it's never been harder than ever. Like to launch a company without a personal brand associated with it. I think it's more essential.
What do you, because obviously like big companies like Coca-Cola and Ford don't really have the people that are running those companies. Most people don't know who they are. They don't have like big personal brands, at least that you see associated with the brand. So what do you like? Does every business need to have someone with a personal brand behind it?
There's always going to be exceptions, but I think the exceptions, more prove the rule than not. It is, yes, you can look at companies that have been around for 40, 50 years and say, well, they don't have a personal brand. Okay, cool. If you've got a time machine, then my guess is you can build a business without a personal brand too. Just go back in time 40, 50 years ago.
So what's different now? then that was not different then?
I think a couple of things. I think number one, right now, people are more interested in associating with real people than they are with large brands. We are at a point, at least in Western cultures, where we are anti-institutions. We don't like, nameless, faceless organizations. Pick your political persuasion. They all hate them, right? Everybody hates Congress. Everybody hates every governmental industries. Like everybody hates every media thing. Just the distrust of large institutions has really, I don't want to say it's never been higher, but it hasn't been as high as it is right now in the past 50 to 100 years. So I think that's thing number one. That's being met at the same time as our marketing channels are so spread out. They are not, it's not one of these things where now everybody's tuning in to the same 3 to 5 channels every day. And so to break through the noise when the noise is everywhere, to do that in a way that goes against people's kind of natural inclinations right now, which is to distrust the nameless, faceless organization, and to do that at a time where you really have to break through an enormous amount of noise. I just think that's why it's fundamentally different.
Okay. So would you say if people are watching, listening here, and they have a product or a service that's already out there in the market and don't have a personal brand, they could benefit from creating one and having that be a component to what they're doing?
Yeah, I think it's phase one. I think phase one, you've got to have a personal brand associated with any product or service that you're launching. I think that was the biggest mistake that we made when we launched Scalable. The Scalable company launched following 2020 COVID. I didn't want to be the face of a brand. You were kind of the face of Epic, and to have you be the face of like 2 brands, like that's a bit confusing. And so we launched it with no real face. It was kind of like the company, and it was very, very difficult to gain any kind of traction. Now, because whose story are you telling? Who is that? Who's the person who's advocating for these people? What's the big why and the greater company purpose, like the things that people will rally around behind just the great offer on the front end? We didn't have that, and it wasn't until we started doing events, and I said, okay, screw it, I got to talk about something. So when I'm up on stage anyway, or you're up on stage anyway, now all of a sudden there's a personal branding component. Once we started taking that out to the market, instantly messaging that didn't work now works because there's a face associated with it. We ran ads for over a year that didn't have my face on them that performed okay. And the second we swapped out that same copy with me saying it, now all of a sudden, what do you know? The exact same message and the exact same offer dramatically outperformed. So I do think, and I think it costs us about 18 months. But I do think that today, if you're going to launch it, you got to launch with a personal brand. Or it's why you see so many of these tequila brands, launching with celebrities attached to them. So if not you, there needs to be some type of strategic key person of influence that you're roping into the business.
So we used to call it, when we were doing infomercials and things like that, a trust agent, that there had to be a trust agent. The trust agent was never the brand. The trust agent was a human that the audience was connected to, that would bridge the audience to the product or service using their reputation, basically, right? So we're really kind of talking about the same thing, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the difference is that consumers today are seeing through just the celebrity endorser, right? Like, do you remember when Matthew McConaughey did those Lincoln commercials?
Yeah.
You remember? Like, I don't actually know how much that increased like Lincoln sales or anything like that. But my guess is not a ton, because one, they didn't do it for very long, and two, it was literally parodied on Saturday Night Live, right? Because I think everybody looks at that and you go, okay, maybe Matthew McConaughey drives a Lincoln, but is that really the reason that I'm going to buy it? Because of him, because he's that trust agent? I think more and more, the trust agent, to use that terminology, needs to be somebody who is involved in the company. They need to be an owner of the company, a founder of the company. I don't know that they need to be the only founder. They don't need to be a majority owner, but there needs to be somebody there who has skin in the game, or it's tough to build trust.
I think that's what Clooney had going for him with Casamigos, was that he told the story of how he and his business partners went around, and there were pictures of them on their motorcycles going around in in Mexico from place to place, sourcing agave and tasting and truly seeking this out. So there was a story behind it. You can certainly believe that George Clooney drinks that tequila from time to time with whatever else he's drinking, and he's out there taking pictures of him being involved in it. So I think, and that made a huge difference. So if somebody's not interested in being in the public light, like let's say that you didn't want to go and put your picture on Scalable and you stuck with that, what would you do instead of that? How would you go about finding that person to be the face of the brand or to be a spokesperson for the brand?
You could do it through acquisition of another brand that they've got a great story, but maybe they don't have great marketing or great distribution. Maybe they don't have the product and service line that you do. And so a merger of some sort or an acquisition of some sort to bring them in, I think is one option. Another option would be to approach somebody and to bring them on as a founder shareholder. I would make sure if you do that it vests, that if there is some kind of, horrible thing where this person turns out, you remember like the Jared Subway type thing. If you got that type of situation where you can get rid of the person, and if they commit some horrific crime, that you can get all the equity back, as an aspect of it, or do it as some type of a, phantom equity. So it's more of a contract and less of their actual on the cap table. So, but I mean, it's kind of going to be one of two. You're either going to look to strategic partner, co-founder with somebody, or you're going to need to do some acquisition merger.